Before we get this video started, I'd like to shout out all the people that support my channel through various forms of social media and Patreon. I would also like to give special thanks to Native American Atheist for supporting my channel and making contributions that make videos like this possible. He has a wonderful Instagram page and I think you guys should go check it out. Recently, I posted an Islamophobic meme in which I said that it is morally abhorrent and senselessly regressive to think that it is normal to idolize and emulate the 7th century barbarian known as the Prophet Muhammad. It was to be expected that the Muslim apologists would come in droves in defense of the greatest man who ever lived and their religion of peace. Gratitude Face had this to say.
It's perfectly normal for Christians, too. The church has been doing the same thing for centuries. Or have you forgotten the Crusades, Manifest Destiny, and Christopher Columbus, who initiated slavery in the West? That's what I hate about religion. You fucking caveman dragging your knuckles claiming morally superior spirituality, superiority over a god that kills just the same as every other god.
Not only was the post not about Christianity, your attempt at tu quo qui did not distract the hounds. Since you do want to mention Christianity in the Crusades, you should probably have a general conception of the surrounding details about the Crusades, including the purpose and motives, because the fact that you even mentioned that on a post that was specifically about Islam proves that you really don't understand the Crusades. You are just casually referring to them as a conversation-ending red herring. Contrary to popular belief, the Crusades were not holy wars with the intent to spread Christianity and convert non-believers with the sword. Actually, very few of the Crusaders even viewed the Crusades as a form of evangelism. The initial purpose of the Crusades and primary military objective of the Middle Ages was simply to reclaim Christian lands captured by Muslim armies. I do agree that Christopher Columbus, who instigated the African slave trade after behaving like a genocidal maniac with the island natives, behaved just as horrifically as Muhammad. However, he did not found a religion and get people to carry out his barbarism 1400 years into the future. To this day, no one is rampantly chopping off hands and feeding people to the dogs in the name of Columbus, at least not en masse. People are committing terrible acts like that and more in the name of Muhammad today. Columbus took a religion and twisted it to do everything he wanted in the name of a deity, while Muhammad created a religion around all of the atrocious acts he committed, his bloodlust and desire to conquer, all while receiving support from the unquestionable authority of an omnipotent deity. Manifest Destiny isn't even a worthwhile mention since it did not have religious origins, nor was it anything other than an idea that remained in people's heads and a political tool to raise support for American nationalism and exceptionalism. Ernest Lee Tuvison said it best when he stated, "A vast complex of ideas, policies, and actions is comprehended under the phrase manifest destiny. They are not, as we should expect, all compatible, nor do they come from any one source." There were some other comments in the comments section. Here's one from Rasta Pasta J 92.
Mofo posting shit someone created that he has no idea about.
Brock_AMV says,
You've never read the Quran or the Bible, it seems.
well, I'm posting shit that I created, that I know, because I do have an idea about it, and I have read the Quran and the Bible and studied them extensively. So, to prove this, Muhammad was a homophobic, misogynistic pedophile, just like the meme says. What facts substantiate this claim? Muhammad, the homophobe. Muhammad is considered by all Muslims to be the perfect example, and therefore they will engage in slimy apologetic behavior that curtails their personal responsibility of the tenets of their faith to which they adhere, for what is advised regarding the treatment of homosexuals as per the doctrine. In parts of the Hadith, it is advised that homosexuals be thrown off the tops of high buildings and stoned to death, and most scholars maintain this position while also recommending alternatives such as keeping them imprisoned until death. According to the Saudi Ministry of Education Textbooks for Islamic Studies 2007 through 2008 academic year, homosexuality is one of the most disgusting sins and greatest crimes. It is a vile perversion that goes against sound nature and is one of the most corrupting and hideous sins. The punishment for homosexuality is death. Both the active and passive participants are to be killed whether or not they have previously had sexual intercourse in the context of a legal marriage. Some of the companions of the Prophet stated that the perpetrator is to be burned with fire. It has also been said that he should be stoned or thrown from a high place. This section was removed, likely after the Saudi textbook controversy and subsequent removals, including educational material that demonizes Christians and Jews or that urges holy war on the non-believers. Muhammad, the misogynistic pedophile. After his marriage with his first wife ended in his 50s due to her death, Muhammad took a 6-year-old Aisha as a bride. At the age of 9, the marriage between Muhammad and Aisha was consummated. This is often justified by depicting Aisha as an astute and mature woman for her age, in an attempt to dismiss any charges of pedophilia. The concept of pedophilia being a manifestation of deviant behavior did not exist in the 7th century, and Muhammad was acting in accordance with the culture of his time. However, Muhammad maintains a status among Muslims as the supreme example for human behavior, despite the fact that he did take a child as a wife and had sex with her before she was capable of comprehending the full breadth of the situation. The United Nations Children Fund reports that over half of the girls in Afghanistan and Bangladesh are married before they reach the age of 18. This is the price that women and girls have paid throughout Islamic history and continue to pay in sickening numbers for Muhammad's status as an excellent example of conduct. Muhammad's general view of adults of the opposite sex isn't particularly rosy either. There are several examples available from the Quran, Hadith, and Sirah to support the notion that Muhammad harbored a generally misogynistic outlook. He believed that women were cognitively deficient compared to men and that a woman's witness is worth half that of a man's. He said that most of the inhabitants of hell are women because they are ungrateful. They deserve hellfire for having any objection to the way they are treated by their husbands, no matter what that treatment entails, which can encompass beating your wife into subservience. There was also one occasion where a woman came to Muhammad and explained that her husband had been beating her because he was impotent and she was unsatisfied. Her skin was described as being bruised so badly that it was greener than the green veil she was wearing. Upon seeing the woman, Aisha remarked that she had not seen any woman suffering abuse like her fellow Muslim women. Instead of admonishing the husband, Muhammad ordered her to return to him and submit to his sexual desires. Muhammad also struck Aisha in the chest for leaving the house without his permission, and laughed when he heard that his fathers-in-law struck Aisha for annoying him. Muhammad also said that a man does not have to give his reasons for why he beats his wife. In addition to the Quran, Hadith, and Sirah, there are also many respected scholars that approve of wife beating. For example, Egyptian cleric Rahman Mansour said in a 2012 televised broadcast that in addition to discouraging the wife from filing divorce, beatings would inspire the wife to treat him with kindness and respect and know that her husband has a higher status than her. Another prominent example is from Dr. Muzammil Siddiqui, the former president of the Islamic Society of North America, a mainstream Muslim organization, who says that it is important that a wife recognizes the authority of her husband in the house, and that he may use physical force if he is sure it would improve the situation. Muhammad, the barbarian. As for his barbarism, Muhammad was a conquering warlord and proponent of wanton anti-Semitism. One such example occurred between February and March 627 when Muhammad ordered or carried out, reports varied, an attack on the Banu Qurayza tribe of Jews because he had been ordered to do so by the angel Gabriel. After a 25-day siege, the Banu Qurayza surrendered without a fight, and Muhammad ordered the digging of trenches. Approximately 800 Jewish males who had reached the age of puberty, this was determined by checking to see if they had pubic hair, were bound, beheaded, and tossed into the trenches. The women and children were parceled out to Muhammad's men as slaves for sexual servitude and labor. Another fine example of Muhammad's barbarism and upstanding moral character occurred when an adulteress who became pregnant during her extramarital affair confessed her sins to Muhammad. Muhammad graciously allows her to have her child and wean him, but instead of forgiving her, he has her buried up to her chest and stoned to death. To be fair, Muhammad did initially turn her away, but she asked for forgiveness for her actions through Muhammad. However, after stoning her, Muhammad blessed and forgave, even going so far as to tell one of his generals to be gentle with his abuse during the stoning. Instead of forgiving her, allowing her to live and raise her child, Muhammad created an orphan, the very people apologists claim Muhammad truly cared for. These are only two examples of Muhammad's barbarism during his prophetic career. His barbarism continued with the draconian punishments he enacted and the commandments he established. The punishments that are prescribed in the Quran and the Hadith are extremely violent violent and not in proportion to the actual crimes committed in any reasonable sense. The repertoire of punishments include being stoned to death, crucifixion, public lashings, amputation of the hands and feet, and beheading. These punishments can be applied for reasons such as adultery, fornication, consuming intoxicants, outrage against the caliph, apostasy, charges of blasphemy, accusing someone of illicit sex but failing to provide witnesses, 4 to be exact, missing prayer or praying incorrectly, and theft. These punishments and the fact that they are sanctioned and prescribed directly by the holy texts that make up the religion make Islam unsuitable for the contemporary world and are emblematic of the pre-medieval time in which Islam belongs. The institution of these punishments by Muhammad with the authority of Allah makes them applicable then, now, and forever. It is quite obvious that Muhammad was morally abhorrent and senselessly regressive, but I will go even further and say that Islam is morally abhorrent and senselessly regressive. Islam is the religion, doctrines, ideas, and culture that originated from Muhammad, and following the religion the way he intended it and commanded it to be practiced. It should be clear, looking at the hundreds of jihadist attacks around the world every week, that when Muslim moderates call their literalists radical extremists, what they are really saying is that the extremists adhere to their religion much more strictly than the moderates do. The moderates can't be outraged or speak against it, or else they demonstrate their own hypocrisy, but their silence inadvertently supports the extremism and allows the radicalism to continue. Painting Muhammad as a virtuous moral character, even if he was prior to his rise to power, and denial of the detestable doctrines established by Muhammad in the Quran, Hadith, and Surah, is a refusal to acknowledge a major global issue. The truth is that the words and deeds of Muhammad have been inspiring Muslims to commit acts of violence for 1400 years, and these acts will continue unless we decide to be honest about what the character of Muhammad and the religion he founded really entails. In the words of Ayaan Hirsi Ali, by declaring our prophet infallible and not permitting ourselves to question him, we Muslims had set up a static tyranny. The prophet Muhammad attempted to legislate every aspect of life. By adhering to his rules of what is permitted and what is forbidden, we Muslims suppressed the freedom to think for ourselves and to act as we chose. We froze the moral outlook of billions of people into the mindset of the Arab desert in the 7th century. We were not just servants of Allah, we were slaves. Thanks for watching. Too often, we're faced with religious folks spouting religious nonsense, but sometimes you gotta look them straight in the eye and tell them, I ain't having none of that. They told me that I'm nothing. They told me that I'm broken. They told me I would understand it if I was devoted. They say that I should trust them, that I should just believe. They say my life be better